just say like, okay, it's question 2 now.
Okay, I told you.
Hello, how stupid are you?
Yes, okay, so talking about the Dyads, for people who are completely new, what would you tell them what Dyads is about?
Yeah, so in short, right? So on this kind of a, let's say, beginner's level, for me, one of the crucial things about Dyads is that they are going beyond, or they are helping an individual go beyond the habitual conditioned way of interacting, which would be, I have a limited amount of time in which I need to say something, and then you will react to it, and then I will react to that, and so forth, and then this dance will go someplace, and I will need to fight for my space, and I will need to, in a way, fight for my space, and also I will keep wondering, what do I want to bring in, because you will likely react to it. So do I want to bring that in, do I not want, and so forth. That would be partially a conditioned and habitual way of communicating as I see it. And Dyads open up this new possibility in which we have a witnessing partner who is in a way not just being, like quiet and not speaking, but in a way symbolically saying, welcome, welcome. Welcome to bring in whatever you want to bring in. There is space for you, you're welcome to. And that's a pretty unique experience for most of us, that we can actually talk and express ourselves and nobody's jumping in. There is just, space is still there, and in the next 5 minutes there is still space. So it actually provides this, for many of us, at least for me, it was never before experienced ease in communication in which I can be completely safe. I have my time to express, to think for 3 minutes, to explore and so forth. And this opens up a completely new, at least for me, completely new way of engaging and exploring, in which I can take time to sense in whatever the question of the Dyad is, to sense in, to experience, to find a way to articulate myself, to articulate without a fear what would be a reaction of my partner. And then I can again go back and explore, experience even more, and go deeper and articulate that and share it and so forth. So it's like a perfect environment of sharing myself in front of another human being. And then of course, because it's a balance, so it's not a psychotherapy, but it's a balance, so it also brings in this balance and companionship and togetherness and so forth. And of course, maybe one more thing is that, as you know, Dyads have been explored a lot, and many versions were explored, and somehow it seems that this 5 minutes, and then 40 minutes together, it seems to work best for most people. And that's something I would like to stress also for maybe people who are less knowledgeable or experienced with Dyads, that it is not random, that it's based on very many experiences. So it's not random, why do we have 5 minutes, why do we have 40 minutes? But it's in a way, it's a well-explored territory. So what's now presented, what we are presenting as Dyads, is something that's been researched a lot, and it's very likely that it's going to work or bring an added value for most people, let's say.
So they're different, as you mentioned, there are different ways of Dyads, and I know you learned them also through the Enlightenment Intensive. Yeah. And now you and Robert Gonzalez have developed this awakening to life. So what is, I'm gonna close this one.
Before that, can I also say something about Dyads for people who are more experienced?
Yes.
Because I was now holding that back.
Of course.
Right.
Yes.
So our journalist just went out. Let's see if she comes back.
She had to climb up the mountain.
So that's one part. But however, what I'm really excited about in terms of diets is I've been just lately experiencing that, and it's very alive in me, and it's very exciting that what is actually happening in the diet is that there are two conscious beings or two manifestations of consciousness coming together. And then one is actually holding the space, literally holding the space, like a vacuum, like an open space for the other conscious entity to bring themselves in. Because in my understanding, what we are doing, we are bringing ourselves into this experience of life within this time-space continuum, mass, matter, energy, and so forth. And of course, we are reluctant to what extent do we want to bring ourselves in, because we've been traumatized and hurt and so forth. So our entering first 10 years of kind of arriving to this world were, for most of us, more or less traumatizing. So we are not so sure to what extent we are really welcome, to what extent, and I mean it on a very existential level. So what's happening, for me, it's very physical actually what's happening in a diet. That one person is the witnessing partner, is actually holding the inviting, welcoming space. Actually saying, not saying, but kind of creating the possibility for you to finally fully enter, like, yes, you are welcome, yes, you are welcome, bring in. And by us, slowly, reluctantly, of course, being all traumatized, kind of slowly bringing more and more of ourselves in, we are actually manifesting or incarnating ourselves finally, fully, in this realm of existence. And the most important thing that I started to discover is the more I bring myself, or whoever brings myself into this realm of existence, the more gravity I will start creating. It's like gravitational space. It's and the more elements are present in this gravitational field, the more gravity they will create, and the more they will attract.
And by gravity, do you mean I take, like now as I invited into that space, that I fully own it and I'm fully arriving and I'm able to...
Yes. And I also mean, gravity in terms of, I understand a bit of physics, not very much, but a bit. And what I understand is that the elements or bodies with their mass are creating gravity, and they are warping the space. It's not like there is space and gravity is in the space, but gravity is the definition of a space. So by that, we are actually warping the space, and we are bringing more power into our initiative to create.
Mm-hmm.
So what I'm trying to say is, the more I bring myself in, the more I can create. And I mean create everything, not just like define me or create joy in my life or whatever, but basically, like really ultimately, the more I bring myself into this world, the more I am creating. By being me, I am creating it. Mm-hmm. Every thought is a creation, of course, but if I'm like really frightened there in the corner, I'm basically just a passive, frightened observer, not really creating anything. And this is something I noticed with people who do lots of diets and awakenings and stuff, that somehow it seems they are more and more present. Mm-hmm. They're more and more here, they're more and more alive, and there are more and more actors in this life, or artists, maybe that's a better word, artists, and more creating their life, creating themselves, creating an experience they would like to experience, rather than being, a leaf being thrown around by the wind. And that's for me at least, a very profound understanding that I started to get just recently, and I'm so excited about. I would like to actually one day talk to physicist about that, you know, and to kind of for you know to get help to articulate that even better. And so that's for me, that's like the ultimate, in a way, kind of a spiritual aspect of Dyads, which is like totally spiritual, like spiritual on the level of gods and goddesses creating and evolving this manifestation that we call universe or whatever.
So Dyads help us to really become the creators
yes.
we are meant to be.
In my experience, yes, they're like really, of course, providing that we are quite strict with the role of a witness, because if witness will just a little bit start occupying the space, I will probably pull back, or you know, maybe not consciously, but at least subconsciously, if there will be something, and that's the power of it. Yeah.
And you're mentioning something about sticking to the format. And I recently, when I was preparing or thinking of what we're doing, I see that we actually have an agreement when we're both going into it. We have an agreement to stick to the format that supports this, what it just says, this bringing in, me holding the space, me not, or as little as possible adding myself into the space, so you have this space to really.
For me, it's a beautiful. I mean, it's agreement. For me, it's a companionship. You know, we are companions. We are just kind of 5 minutes for you, 5 minutes for me, and then switch back and forth. But we are like spiritual companions. And also about the format, I would like to say that for me, of course, if I am witnessing you in a Dyad and I'm not reacting because I shouldn't react because somebody told me that that's the format, then that's not really witnessing. I mean, I'll be suffering here, but probably not really holding space. But if I'm having this awareness that by me witnessing, I'm actually inviting you into this life. I'm inviting you to shine fully. I'm inviting your beauty to grow. I mean, this is an honorable, beautiful task I'm actually doing. You know, so for me, so that's such a huge shift. If it's not like, oh my God, you know, the facilitator will see me if I nod, so I should not. That's you know, that's nothing. But if I'm aware,
you're occupied with yourself.
Exactly, yeah. But if I'm aware, hey man, I'm doing something celestial here in a way, you know. And of course, you will probably do that for me as well. But it's really, I'm inviting you to shine for you and to shine for me, and then I say thank you. And then you are holding the space for me. It's just as beautiful as it can get, I believe, in terms of us having a companionship.
What is the awakening to life? What is special the awakening to life? What is it?
Yeah. So as you mentioned before, both Robert and me we started our journeys with enlightenment intensives, and for both of us, it was, you know, enlightenment intensives, we still consider them like one of the main things that happened in our lives. So I have loads of gratitude. And there were a few elements that were a bit kind of disturbing, let's say, there for both of us. And so we wanted to find a format that will take the intensity and the beauty and the depth that we never experienced elsewhere afterwards, after the enlightenment intensive, and will also bring in a sense of choice, a sense of kind of invitation rather than rules, and just believing that if somebody is going through this format with many Dyads and so forth, because they choose from one moment to another to do so, that this may have a much deeper effect on them than if they are in a way pulled or pushed through the format, because, you know. So that was like the basic idea behind. Also, we wanted to get rid of this chasing a specific experience, which would be enlightenment. I have all respect for enlightenment as state of samadhi, state of union, oneness. I have all respect and I have just nothing but gratitude for that, for everything that I experienced so far. And at the same time, I also noticed that the mind can only function in duality, in plus, minus, up, down, left, right, wrong, right, and so forth, and is all the time trying to make meaning out of, to make sense. It's a meaning-making machine. So immediately when we say, oh, the goal is enlightenment, then immediately this becomes good, not enlightened, bad. When I reach, it will be okay. Until then, it's not okay. And I mean, there is more to say, but it's that duality which I believe it's not really necessary, and it can be slowing down because the mind gets so engaged. Soto Zen, for instance, as part of Zen that I practiced myself a lot, dropped the notion of enlightenment fully. So Rinzai Zen would still have Kensho, Satori would have these different levels of enlightenment, and Soto Zen dropped it completely because immediately when you are thinking, oh, not good, I need to, and then of course, then I experience enlightenment, and then my mind gets activated and starts to try to capture this. Oh, I got so enlightened, even more than other people. I'm so humble, I'm more humble than other people, and so forth. So all this drama, it's so hard to keep it out. So basically what we also wanted to get rid of this trap for mind. So we are not talking about, we are not naming experiences. People are having experiences on awakenings that I would label as experiences of oneness. However, we don't want to, label them and so forth. So that's like maybe the main difference between, and our desire or the key idea in front of or behind the concept of awakening to life intensive is to create. In this case, it's one week, is to create a 1 week that will actually serve as a kind of a sacred ceremony. There will be no outside inputs, nothing to worry about, complete possibility to let go of all worries, all habitual thinking patterns, and to just focus on one thing only, which is to slowly wake up to this mystery of existence. What this mystery of existence is, I don't know. I mean, I can give some answers, but they are heavily conditioned with my mind and limited by the possibility of my mind to, articulate things. So it's better even not to say anything, really. But the sole purpose is, can we spend 1 week to just start, like Robert said the other day, not just waking up, but also waking up each other. Just kind of waking up each other to a deeper, higher, more profound reality. To what is this mystery, to what this is. What is the mystery of life? Of course, all along the way, because we are doing Dyads with very specific questions, we will be bringing ourselves in. So that's the almost like collateral effect. That of course, by the end, if we did the process, by the end of the week, we will be way more present in this life than we were before, probably. However, the goal, as I see it, is even bigger than that. It's really slowly taking the veils away and slowly waking up to what this existence of ours is all about.
Do you have a sense that Dyads is for everybody?
Wow, that's quite a question. I can imagine that there would be people who would have incredible difficulties, like a person who has a really narrow capacity to listen. Let's say that for them to not speak for 5 minutes, just that could be, at least at the beginning, a nightmare. I also, from experience, I noticed that people who are very much in their mind, they were so directed throughout their primary and probably secondary conditioning, social conditioning, into just using their mind and everything else kind of disappeared, they might be having also loads of issues because they will be just searching for answers or circling in certain area and trying to make sense or intellectualize it. That will, at the end of the day, leave them dry and frustrated. So I could easily imagine quite some types of people that will have probably more difficulties with diets than some others. And I would still recommend them to explore it. I still wouldn't say that's not for you, but maybe I would say, well, yeah, maybe you will have some difficulties, maybe a bit more fierce difficulties, and I see it as an incredible space to grow. And it's a very safe space to grow because you're actually growing by or learning by doing it. Nobody's telling you, well, it's really good to be like this and it's not so much in mind, but actually you are slowly, as you are moving, as you are doing this weird activity, your capacity to be this way or that way is expanding along the way. So I would tend to say yes. I hope everybody would end up doing diets.
Which actually, listening to you comes, and I don't know about the time. We have
20 minutes.
So we at 4 o'clock.
Yeah.
Okay. So sometimes people come. They actually need empathy.
Right.
So
yeah.
And the diet is definitely not the place
got
for
it. Yeah.
maybe address something like
this.
Yeah.
That's okay. Now I understand what you were actually maybe asking. So is every moment in your life, or can everything be solved by a diet? For instance, I mean, you didn't ask that, but let's say this direction. I fully resonate that if a person is really needing, really experiencing loads of pain, loads of life falling apart and so forth, I mean, I can imagine diet can help to a certain degree, kind of a recenter, get in touch with now, depending on the question, but maybe a better strategy in that moment would be receiving empathy or any different support, because in my experience, diets have primarily evolutionary role, maybe not so much the healing one. Maybe for healing, if I need healing, then maybe something else could be, at least now when I'm bleeding, when blood is spraying, at least now I can get something else that would be more attentive to my specific needs, because I will have hard time to be a witness and so forth. And I would maybe enjoy some empathic reflections, which I'm not getting in a diet. However, even though I see as a primal focus of diets more like an evolution, let's say, of course, along the way, lots of healing is happening on many levels. People are experiencing, as you know, many things will come out. They will have emotional catharsis and release. And even today at the awakening, I heard many things that I could label that's a healing step. I wouldn't say that necessarily the whole wound has been healed, but it did sound to me like big steps in a healing process. So of course, along the way, I'm pretty sure lots of healing is happening, but I wouldn't use it instead of, I don't know, psychotherapy or empathic receiving or something like this.
Just thinking if there's anything else that I think we covered most of it. Do you have anything else from your side? I think it's
maybe one thing that I would like to say. I don't know to what extent it's directly relevant, but it's very relevant to me today on Awakening, and it's kind of again and again it's puzzling me. It's really puzzling. It's puzzling me almost to the level of disbelief. Like, what? How strongly we seem to have been conditioned into using our mind only and nothing else. And how our mind seems to be and with, you know, lots of gratitude to mind, because it's making meaning, and my life would be a nightmare without a mind, and so forth. So, you know, I don't want to demonize the mind, as it's often it is demonized in you know, spiritual environments. However, it has this kind of such a strong grip after, I guess, primarily Western conditioning, that, you know, even after 5 days of doing it, still getting across to people that there are two parts in a diet. First, you are opening up to, first, like, let's say, experiential part, in which you're trying to experience something, you're trying to open up to something, you're trying to sense into something. So there is an inner action you are doing, which is probably going into the direction of opening up to something, but it's an inner action you're doing. And then the second step would be you share what came up as a direct consequence of this. When you're done sharing, you let go of it, it's a new moment, you do this action anew, as if you have never done it before. And it seems that even though it's, you know, like, it's 1 minute to explain that, but that mind has such an incredibly strong grip that for most people it seems an impossible thing to do for many, many, many days. They would just go like, yeah, you know, like something, do something like, oh, okay, I close my eyes and I kind of check with myself, and then I speak for 5 minutes, which actually is completely skipping the first part, which for me is a crucial part in a diet. This experiential part is a crucial. Otherwise, you know, I'm just sharing whatever comes up to my mind, and you're sharing, and you know. So some I'm very often puzzled and to disbelief. And again, it helps me when I remember when I was on my first enlightenment intensive, and the second, and the third, and the fourth, and I was still not getting it. There would be an assistant or a facilitator telling me, okay, Robert, try to experience who you are right now. Stay with it for a bit, and then share what comes up. I just started sharing. I just couldn't grasp, like, what are you asking me to do? Like, kind of, you know, it was just outside of something that I could relate to. So I do have compassion for people, but it's just amazing to see what an incredible strength there is. And again, it's, for me, Dyads are really great in healing that.
You know, that's for me, having done the enlightenment intensive, I never got that before. I talked to Robert and I said, I don't know if you have explained that. I hear it that you're explaining it much more now. I don't remember having heard that before. And I also noticed that through the enlightenment intensive, this reminder of go inside, we call it, here we call it experience. In enlightenment, it's kind of go into that contemplation, and then you're sharing what comes as a result of the contemplation or as a result of the experience. And that's what you're speaking out with. I really like that also, going into contemplation or into experience with that openness, what's happening. And I remember having forgotten this again and again, and it still happens, and it's so good to be reminded. And I think this, for me, I brought it in a little bit on the once in a while when I do the online, that I tell people, well, listen, have this intention, they call it like the direct experience, or have this intention of really going into experience first, and then speak out from that space. And then, so it's not that on and on and on and on going. And I think that's the part when we talked yesterday. Why is it that people kind of have this, and it's still, nothing changes. It's that, and I'm not sure if people really get that. And I think it is over and over and over and over and over again. And I mean, I like it what you do now is that, hey, if you have problems, call us for help. There they just came and they were listening.
Yeah,
as
yeah.
Robert, you're
Yeah.
still doing.
Yeah.
And something like this, I think that makes such a big difference. This, okay, go inside, contemplate, or go into experience. And that's what you're sharing.
Yeah.
And that is my understanding when Werner said, then when this is fully communicated, then my mind calms down.
Yeah.
And it's releasing what's up there, and I become more calm instead of ongoing narrative. I think that makes a huge and that's if that comes in, I think that is really helpful for people.
Yeah. And I believe it's, like as you know, I've gone through many enlightenment intensives, and yeah, people were sitting with me and they were, next and entering the space and so forth. And I can't say that it really helped much more. I was able to get what I was able to get then. In a way, it was.
You mean the sitting next to it and supporting?
Yeah, I mean, I was, in a way, I remember the first IIT and with Marshall, and I was doing this for chairs, and I had been a communication trainer before that, almost for 20 years already. So I thought, I know it, and we were doing the 4 chairs. And I didn't get anything. I mean, there was a support trainer next to me, telling me what to do. There was a group of people, everybody was telling me what to do. I had written it on the flip chart, and I was just like, okay, so now you do this. Okay, I got it. What? And it just didn't. So as if my system was too strong that any ray of light could penetrate. And if I, regardless of whether I heard it 5 times in a minute or once in a minute, nothing helped. But then later on, with some shifts and some grasping and some kind of embodiment, I started to realize, oh, that's what this exercise was all about. And then, so it's, anyways.
I think what it brings for me, it's being a trainer that has a tendency of repeating myself over and over and over again, and knowing how my mind, or having a sense of how important it is to hear it and hear it and hear it and hear it again. One of my spiritual teachers once said something like, the right of a teacher is to repeat himself over and over, and the right of a disciple is to forget over and over again. Kind of like that. Yes, that's exactly. Oh yes, and then the moment I want to do it, I forgot about it.
And there is this full intention to do it. You want to do it.
Absolutely. Yeah. So maybe I was just really lucky that this time I got it.
I mean, it also, for all of us, it took time. It's like, that's also one thing that Werner said. I don't know if it's written someplace or was it when I was studying with him in Australia, and he said, and I very much agree with that, according to my experience, if one was to do the enlightenment technique 100%, then in one diet you're enlightened.
And one diet is
one diet you're enlightened. I mean, there is no way for you not to be enlightened in one diet. But we don't do it. We are all over the place. It's almost like saying, if I were to practice guitar every day for 2 hours, there is no way I will not be much better guitar player in 1 month than I am now. There is no way. If I'm so it's for me. It's, you can't miss it.
Okay.
Thank you. Also, I would like to send greetings to my daughter.